Right now, like as we speak, your meticulously crafted resume has, well, it's roughly a 75% chance of being rejected by a machine before a human being ever even lays a single eye on it.
Yeah, a machine. Just a string of code.
75%. I mean, you spend hours, maybe days, agonizing over the perfect font, the exact phrasing of your previous job duties.
Right, balancing the margins.
Exactly, balancing the margins and making sure your contact info looks super professional. And you hit submit, and within milliseconds, this algorithm evaluates your entire professional worth and just quietly dumps you into a digital trash bin.
And the worst part is it doesn't even have the courtesy to tell you.
It really doesn't, and it's just brutal.
It is. It's the ultimate asymmetry of modern professional life. You pour maximum human effort into a system that responds with, honestly, zero human empathy.
Zero.
And the psychological toll of that specific asymmetry is radically reshaping how we understand career progression today.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that is exactly what we're getting into today. Let's face it, looking for a job right now feels less like a traditional career move and more like, I don't know, participating in some twisted psychological experiment where they keep changing the rules.
Yeah, the rules are definitely not what they used to be.
Right. So we have a really fascinating piece of source material for this deep dive. It's this 8 to 10 minute video script created by someone who essentially live documented their descent into this madness and, more importantly, their tactical escape from it. The video is simply titled, "Looking for a Job, and Then I Found a Job."
And what makes this source material so compelling isn't just the eventual success, right? It's the clinical precision with which the creator dissects the failure.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they aren't speaking from the theoretical safety of, like, an HR seminar. They are giving us a real-time post-mortem of their own breaking point.
So the mission of our deep dive today is to take that post-mortem and extract the exact mechanisms of why the modern hiring system feels so broken. And then we're going to break down the specific three-pronged strategy this creator used to hack their way out of the void.
Because we are not just talking about updating your cover letter here.
No, not at all. We are talking about decoding the algorithm of modern hiring.
Oh.
So to you, the listener,
Yeah.
whether you are currently dreading a final round interview tomorrow morning, or maybe feeling completely paralyzed by a stagnant career, or even if you're just fascinated by the brutally competitive mechanics of the modern economy, we are giving you the roadmap today.
We really need to fundamentally dismantle the illusion of what it takes to get hired today. And I think we should start with the psychological baseline the creator establishes right at the beginning.
Right out of the gate, the creator looks at the camera, and they look exhausted, but there's this weary smile. And they say, looking for a job is probably one of the most stressful things anyone can go through.
Which is so relatable.
Extremely. And they describe this agonizing loop, refreshing emails, sending out resumes, swallowing rejection, and just repeating that over and over. But then they make this incredibly crucial observation about their starting mindset. They say, it started with a lot of hope. I thought with my skills and degree, it would be easy.
What's fascinating here is that right there, that is the core of the modern professional tragedy, that expectation.
The expectation that it should be easy.
Yeah, well, the creator operated on the assumption that the traditional social contract was still intact.
Meaning the old idea that degree plus skills equals job.
Exactly. For the latter half of the 20th century, that equation was essentially a law of physics for the middle class. I mean, the institution provided the credential signaled competence, and then the local market just absorbed that competence.
Right, because there were boundaries.
Precisely. The geographic boundaries of your city or state created this natural moat around your job prospects. If you were, say, the third best accountant in a 50-mile radius, you were going to be comfortably employed.
But that moat is completely gone now.
It's evaporated.
The creator notes how the reality of the highly competitive global job market just hit them like a truck. They realize that whether they were in the US or anywhere else, the competition is just insane. And here is the line from the video that really stuck with me. They realized that simply being good wasn't enough.
And we really have to unpack what good actually means in a hyper-globalized, remote-enabled, AI-filtered talent pool.
Because it used to mean you were a top pick, right?
Right. Good used to be the differentiator. Now, good is merely the baseline requirement to even step onto the field. When a company posts a remote or hybrid role today, they aren't looking at the top talent in their zip code anymore. They are looking at the top talent in their time zone, or or perhaps globally.
Which means you're competing against literally everyone.
Exactly. The sheer volume of applicants means that being fundamentally competent, like having the degree, having the baseline skills, it just makes you statistically indistinguishable from 10,000 other people.
Wow. It's like training your whole life to be a great high school athlete, right? You show up to what you think is a local track meet, and you realize you've accidentally walked into the Olympic trials.
That is a perfect way to put it.
But the punishment for losing isn't just, taking home a silver medal. It's this agonizing phenomenon the creator describes next. They weren't even getting rejected. They were mostly receiving deafening silence. They felt like their resume was disappearing into a black hole.
And the black hole is not a metaphor. I really want to stress that. It is a structural reality of Applicant Tracking Systems, or ATS.
Okay, let's stop right there and get into the actual mechanism of this.
Right.
Why is the black hole a structural reality? Like, what is actually happening when you click submit on a job portal?
Okay, so when you apply online, your resume does not go to a human being's inbox.
It doesn't.
No, it goes into a database. The ATS uses parsing algorithms to strip all the formatting from your document, all those nice margins you worried about, and it converts your professional history into raw data.
Just plain text.
Right. And then it uses semantic search and Boolean logic to score your data against the specific parameters set by the recruiter. So if the recruiter needs a senior project manager who knows agile methodologies and Salesforce, and your resume says you are an experienced team lead who is great at sprints and CRM software, the algorithm might score you at like a 20% match.
Wait, hold on. Even though team lead and project manager are often the exact same thing in actual practice, and sprints are literally part of Agile.
Precisely. The machine does not infer nuance. Not unless it has been specifically programmed with a highly sophisticated natural language processing model, which, frankly, a lot of legacy HR systems completely lack.
So it's literally just looking for exact word matches.
Exact string matches, yes. So the system automatically filters out anyone below, say, an 80% match. Your resume is archived. A human never sees it. And because it's an automated archiving process, the system often isn't even configured to send an automated rejection email until the position is completely closed and filled in the system, which could be months later, if it happens at all.
So you are sitting there waiting for a verdict that has already been handed down by a server farm 3 weeks ago.
Exactly.
It's like you were stranded on an island, right? Taking all this time to write out these elaborate, vulnerable letters about who you are and why you matter. You put them in little glass bottles, and you throw them into the ocean.
Hoping someone finds them.
Right. You spend all day throwing these bottles. Your shoulders ache. You are exhausted. It physically feels like you are doing productive work. But statistically, you're just polluting the ocean.
And that brings us to the psychological devastation of the process. You asked earlier why silence is so difficult to process compared to a flat-out rejection.
Yeah, why is the silence worse?
Well, in the realm of psychology, there is something called the Zeigarnik effect. It dictates that people remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks much better than completed tasks. The human brain craves closure. It needs to close the loop to conserve cognitive energy.
So a rejection letter, even a brutal one, closes the loop.
Yes. A definitive rejection provides narrative finality. You applied, you were weighed, you were measured, and you were found wanting. It hurts, sure, but you can mourn the loss of the opportunity and redirect your energy.
You can move on.
Right. Silence, however, forces your brain to keep the loop open. You are held in a state of suspended animation, and without data to explain the silence, your brain starts filling in the blanks with your deepest insecurities.
Oh, totally. You start questioning, did my internet cut out during submission? Did I use the wrong font? Or am I just fundamentally unemployable?
It strips away your agency because you can't even force the system to acknowledge that you exist.
You are screaming into a void that doesn't even echo. And that lack of echo, that relentless silence, doesn't just stall your career. According to the creator's video, it drives you straight into a wall. It leads directly to a deeply personal breaking point.
Which is inevitable. The loss of agency is a profound psychological trigger. When we feel we have no control over our environment or our outcomes, we enter a state of learned helplessness.
And the creator vividly documents this exact state. They take us to their absolute lowest point. It's not happening in a boardroom. It's not some dramatic confrontation with a boss. It's 2 a.m. They are sitting at their desk alone, staring at their bank account.
A very solitary crisis.
Yeah, and they describe feeling an actual physical pressure in their chest. The internal monologue turns completely toxic. They ask, am I good enough? Is there something wrong with me?
I want to spend a moment on that physical symptom, that pressure in the chest, because that is not metaphorical.
That's a real medical thing.
It is a well-documented physiological response to chronic stress. Specifically, it's the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system in the absence of a physical release.
Meaning what exactly? Like fight or flight?
Yes, the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, kicks into high gear. When human beings face a threat to their survival, our bodies flood with cortisol and adrenaline. Historically, that threat was a predator, right? So you use that energy to fight or run away.
But you can't punch a plummeting bank account.
Exactly. An inbox full of silence is not a predator you can fight. You cannot outrun a bad economy. So that massive chemical surge has absolutely nowhere to go. It sits in your body, constricting your blood vessels, elevating your heart rate, creating that literal heavy pressure in your chest.
Wow.
It is the physiology of an identity crisis.
And it's an identity crisis because, as the creator explicitly states in the video, job hunting isn't just about money, it's about your dignity.
Which is a profound realization about modern society. We have inextricably linked our intrinsic human value to our economic output.
We really have.
From the time we are children, the defining question our identity is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Notice it's not how do you want to be, but what do you want to be? Meaning, what is your labor function?
Ooh, that's dark. So when the market rejects your labor function,
when the market rejects your labor, or worse, ignores it entirely with that black hole silence, the internal translation isn't, my skills don't match this quarter's hiring needs.
Yeah.
The internal translation is, I am useless. Society does not need me to exist.
It is a direct assault on human dignity.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because the narrative takes a sharp turn right here. In this incredibly dark, painful 2 a.m. moment, the creator makes a vital decision. They decide to completely stop doing what wasn't working.
They finally break the cycle.
Yes. They abandon the messages in a bottle strategy entirely. And it made me think about corporate turnarounds. Like if a business is selling a product that nobody wants and they are hemorrhaging cash, it usually takes the company hitting the absolute brink of bankruptcy, the financial rock bottom, before the board finally fires the CEO and changes the product line.
That's a great comparison.
So my question for you is hitting an emotional rock bottom actually a required mechanism for human beings to abandon failing strategies? Can we not pivot before the chest pains?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, theoretically, yes, we can pivot earlier through rational analysis, but practically, behavioral economics tells us that human beings are fiercely governed by the status quo bias and loss aversion.
Right.
We stubbornly cling to familiar routines, even agonizing ones, because the familiar is perceived as safe.
Okay, but how is sending 500 resumes into a void and getting deeply depressed safe?
It's safe because it requires no structural risk. Applying to hundreds of jobs online through an automated portal is demoralizing, yes, but it is a known quantity. It is a familiar pain. You don't have to put your actual face or voice on the line.
Oh, I see.
You don't have to experience the acute, stinging rejection of a real human being saying no to your face. The machine's silence is painful, but it's sterile.
The devil you know.
Exactly. To completely dismantle your strategy requires stepping into the unknown, which triggers a different, sharper kind of fear. Generally speaking, individuals will not fundamentally alter their behavior until the pain of staying the same finally exceeds the pain of changing.
And that 2 a.m. moment was the tipping point.
That visceral loss of dignity, the crushing pressure in the chest, that was the inflection point. The pain of the black hole strategy became physically and psychologically unbearable. The creator realized that continuing on this path wasn't just risking their bank account, it was destroying their sense of self.
That realization was the catalyst. It forced the pivot. They realized that looking for a job is in itself a full-time job. You can't just passively click buttons while watching Netflix.
No, you have to be intentional.
So, having hit that wall, they completely rebuild their methodology from the ground up. And this is where we transition from the emotional crucible into the highly tactical architecture of the creator's escape. They develop a specific 3-pillar strategy.
And we really need to dissect the mechanics of each pillar, because what the creator essentially did was reverse engineer the very system that was keeping them out.
Let's start with the first pillar. The creator implements what they call the resume hack. They completely halt the mass blast approach. No more sending the exact same beautifully formatted PDF to 50 different companies in one afternoon.
Right.
Instead, they start meticulously tailoring their resume for each specific job, deliberately embedding the exact keywords that recruiters and algorithms are actively scanning for.
We touched on the applicant tracking system earlier, but this is where the candidate actively hacks it. By tailoring keywords, the creator is moving from a strategy of push to a strategy of alignment.
Break down the alignment part for me, because on the surface, tailoring your resume sounds like the most generic career center advice ever given. Like, make sure to use the words in the job description. But what is actually happening at the data level when you do this?
At the data level, you are optimizing for something called TF-IDF, term frequency inverse document frequency.
Okay, that sounds intense.
It's a statistical measure used to evaluate how important a word is to a document in a collection or corpus. When an ATS parses a resume, it isn't just looking for the presence of a keyword. It's looking for the context and frequency of that keyword relative to the job description.
So if the job description mentions cross-functional leadership 3 times, and your resume just says managed a team once, the machine downgrades you.
Yes. The machine operates on a rigid taxonomy. If you were a client success director, but the company's internal taxonomy calls that role a customer journey lead, your refusal to adapt your terminology means the algorithm views you as inexperienced in their specific domain.
Even if the jobs are identical.
Exactly. The creator's hack was essentially adopting the language of the gatekeeper. It is a translation exercise. You have to strip your ego out of how you prefer to describe your past achievements and rigidly adopt the vocabulary of the company's specific job description.
It's like search engine optimization for your career.
Yeah.
You wouldn't build a website selling sneakers and refuse to use the word shoes just because you prefer the term footwear. Google won't rank you, and the ATS won't rank you.
That is a perfect analogy. The creators stopped trying to force their own linguistic framework onto the machine and started speaking the machine's native language. They optimized their digital footprint for the parsing engine.
Okay, but even if you beat the machine, you still have to deal with the humans. Which brings us to the second pillar, LinkedIn networking.
This is a big one.
Huge. The creators stopped passive applying entirely. They stopped hitting the easy apply button. Instead, they started actively reaching out to real people working at the companies they admired. But here is the critical distinction they make in the video. They reached out to ask for advice, not a job.
And this specific maneuver, the transition from asking for a job to asking for advice, is a masterclass in human psychology and social dynamics.
I want to push back on this pretty hard, actually.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because on its face, it sounds great. But isn't this just a massive manipulative Trojan horse? If every desperate applicant suddenly starts flooding the inboxes of mid-level managers asking for advice interviews under the guise of networking, doesn't that just create a new, even more annoying spam filter for professionals? I mean, people aren't stupid. They know you actually want a job.
It is a fair critique. And yes, if executed poorly or insincerely, it absolutely reads as a manipulative Trojan horse. However, when executed correctly, it leverages a very powerful psychological phenomenon known as the Benjamin Franklin effect.
The idea that doing a favor for someone makes you like them more.
Exactly. Benjamin Franklin famously won over a political rival, not by doing the rival a favor, but by asking to borrow a rare book from him.
Right.
When you ask someone for a job, you are placing a massive cognitive and professional burden on them. You are asking them to vouch for a stranger, to risk their own internal political capital, or to do the heavy lifting of routing your resume. It makes them defensive. They will almost instinctively find a reason to say no just to relieve that burden.
Right. They'll say, I'm sorry, I don't have hiring authority,
Yeah.
or please refer to our careers page.
Yes, exactly. But when you ask a professional for 5 minutes of their advice about their own career trajectory or their view on the industry, you completely flip the power dynamic. You are no longer a burden, you are an audience.
Oh, that's clever.
You are stroking their ego. You are signaling that you view them as an expert whose wisdom is valuable.
You are activating their vanity.
You are activating their vanity, but you are also activating their mentorship instinct. Most professionals, especially those who have achieved a degree of success, genuinely like talking about how they got there.
People love talking about themselves.
They really do. And when they agree to give you advice, they are investing a small amount of their time in you. And because of the Benjamin Franklin effect, once they have invested in you, their brain retroactively justifies that investment by deciding, I must like this person, otherwise I wouldn't be helping them.
Okay, I see the mechanism there. But practically speaking, how does getting advice translate into getting a job without crossing that awkward line where you eventually have to ask for the job anyway?
This raises an important question, but the truth is you often never have to ask.
Really?
Really. Because in the process of giving you advice, the contact naturally learns about your background, your curiosity, and your drive. You are bypassing the ATS algorithm and inserting yourself directly into the human network of the company.
So they become an advocate for you organically.
Yes. If a position opens up, or if they know a hiring manager who is struggling to find a good candidate, you are no longer a piece of paper in a database. You are the bright, proactive professional they had a great conversation with last week. You transition from outbound application to inbound serendipity.
So even if the initial reach out is tactical, the relationship that forms can yield genuine advocacy. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But networking alone just gets you in the room, right?
Right.
Once they look at your profile, if your baseline capabilities haven't evolved since your last projection, that network connection is wasted.
Completely wasted.
And that realization is what drove the creator to the third pillar, skill building.
Yes, and the video notes this explicitly. While the creator was waiting for the networking and the resume hacks to pay off, they refused to sit idle. They took an online course specifically to make their profile stand out.
Now, I feel like this is a point that people often misunderstand. They think, oh, if I'm unemployed, I should just go back and get a master's degree or get 10 random certifications. But it's not just about accumulating badges, is it? How do you actually identify a high ROI skill to build when you are in the middle of this crisis?
It requires strategic adjacency. Taking a random course doesn't help. What the creator is implying here is identifying the gap between what you currently offer and what the market is currently rewarding.
Right.
You have to look at the job descriptions you are targeting, the same ones you are pulling keywords from, and look for the recurring secondary requirements.
Give me an example of strategic adjacency.
Let's say you are a traditional marketing manager. You know brand strategy, you know copywriting. But every job description you look at for a senior role suddenly mentions data visualization or Tableau or basic SQL. Your core skill is marketing, but the adjacent skill the market is currently demanding is data analysis. By spending 3 weeks taking an intensive online course in SQL, you aren't fundamentally changing your career, you are building a bridge between your existing expertise and the market's new baseline.
You are making yourself interdisciplinary.
Exactly. You are signaling to an employer that you are not technologically stagnant. But beyond the resume value, there is a massive psychological benefit to this third pillar that ties directly back to the 2 a.m. crisis.
Reclaiming agency.
Reclaiming an internal locus of control. When you are waiting for the ATS to email you or waiting for a LinkedIn connection to reply, you are entirely passive. You are at the mercy of external forces. The human brain deteriorates rapidly under those conditions.
It just rots.
It does. By actively enrolling in a course, setting a learning schedule, and mastering a new concept, you force your brain back into an active, forward-moving state.
You are neuroplastically fighting back the despair.
You are generating your own momentum. You are able to look in the mirror and say, I may not have a job today, but I am objectively more qualified and more capable today than I was yesterday. That builds an internal fortress of confidence.
And that internal fortress is absolutely vital for the next phase. Because if you execute those 3 pillars, consistently optimizing the keywords, building the human network, and strategically upgrading your skills, eventually the math works out.
It's a numbers game played with loaded dice.
Exactly. The opportunity knocks. And in the creator story, it finally did. They get the call, they secure an interview.
The transition from the black hole to the hot seat.
Right. And they describe their heart racing, which is the most honest thing in the world. I mean, you've been starving in the desert for months, and suddenly someone offers you a glass of water. Of course, your heart is pounding. But here is where the creator's strategy reaches its absolute zenith. They don't just show up and wing it. They prepare intensely. Specifically, they research the company's problems. And their entire goal in the interview is to present how their specific skills could solve those specific problems.
A total pivot in perspective.
Right. By the end of this interview, the creator notes a profound shift in the room. They felt like the interviewers didn't just see a candidate anymore, they saw a solution.
That word solution is the fulcrum on which modern career success balances. It represents a total paradigm shift in how you view your relationship with capital and employment.
So what does this all mean? Let's elevate this, because the basic advice of show them how you can help is something everyone has heard. Yeah. Companies hire people because they have problems. Okay, we know that. But how does a candidate actually diagnose a company's pain points from the outside?
It's tricky.
It is. It's not like a company posts on their website, hey, our Q3 retention strategy is a disaster and our back-end code is a mess. They hide their problems. So how do you walk into an interview armed with a diagnosis?
You have to engage in corporate forensics. You don't just read the About Us page. If it's a publicly traded company, you pull their most recent 10K report or listen to their quarterly earnings calls.
Oh, wow. People actually do that.
The successful ones do. The CEO literally has to tell investors exactly what risks the company is facing and where they are failing to capture market share.
Like, we are seeing headwinds in customer acquisition in the European market.
Exactly. So if you are applying for a marketing role, you now know the European market is their bleeding neck. If it's a private company, you use tools like LinkedIn to track their recent hires. Did they just hire 3 senior engineers but no product managers? They likely have a massive bottleneck in product delivery.
You play detective.
You read industry publications to see what regulatory changes are threatening their sector. You use the product yourself, read customer reviews, and identify friction points.
So you are building a dossier.
You are conducting a diagnostic audit before you ever step foot in the room. Most candidates walk into an interview prepared to talk endlessly about their own past. I did this, I achieved that. My greatest weakness is that I work too hard.
The classic, terrible answer.
It's entirely backward-looking and self-centric. When you walk in as a solution, your focus is entirely forward-looking and company-centric. You pivot the conversation from, here's my history, to, here is my hypothesis on how to optimize your European customer acquisition strategy using the SQL data analysis skills I just acquired.
It's like going to a mechanic. If I'm managing a fleet of delivery trucks and 3 of my trucks have broken transmissions, I am losing thousands of dollars a day.
Right.
When I interview a mechanic, I don't care if they have a lifelong passion for gears. I don't care if they need the job to pay their mortgage. I care about one specific thing. Can they fix my 3 transmissions by Friday so I stop bleeding money?
That is the raw, unvarnished reality of the labor market. The company is the fleet manager bleeding money.
But hold on. This brings up an incredibly difficult psychological contradiction. We know from the video that the creator was experiencing literal chest pains at 2 a.m. over their bank account. They were terrified. They were desperate.
Yes, the survival instinct was fully activated.
So how incredibly hard is it to focus entirely on their corporate problems, to care about their European market acquisition, when you are consumed by the terror of your own survival? How do you walk into a room carrying the baggage of 50 rejections and a plummeting bank balance and project the calm, clinical aura of a bespoke solution?
It requires immense, almost superhuman compartmentalization. And this is exactly why the third pillar, the skill building, was so crucial. It provided the structural confidence necessary to mask the desperation.
Because desperation is the ultimate repellent, isn't it?
Desperation is fatal in an interview. Human beings are incredibly adept at reading micro-expressions and energetic subtext. When you walk into an interview desperate, even if you were trying to hide it, you emit a signal that says, I need you to save me.
Oh, that's heavy.
You are unconsciously demanding that the interviewer take on your emotional and financial burden.
You are making yourself another problem for them to solve.
Precisely. If an interviewer senses that you need the job more than you want to solve their problems, they will reject you. The psychological discipline the creator demonstrates here is the ability to walk into that room, lock the 2 a.m. terror in a box, and project an aura of professional abundance.
Like, I am a high-value asset, evaluating whether your company is the right place to deploy my solutions.
Yes. By hyper-focusing outward on the company's pain points, you distract your own brain from your internal panic. You stop playing the role of the supplicant begging for a coin, and you assume the role of the consultant offering a cure.
That completely flips the script.
You completely invert the power dynamic of the room. The interviewers are no longer interrogating your worth. They are leaning in, listening to your diagnosis of their business.
And when you pull that off, when you successfully transition from a passive candidate lost in the black hole to an active, highly targeted solution sitting across the table, the math finally tips in your favor. Which leads us to the climax of the creator's story.
The resolution of the entire agonizing arc.
2 days post-interview. Just 2 days. After months of silence, after the black hole, after the 2 a.m. crisis, the creator receives the email. We'd like to offer you the position.
Incredible.
And the way they describe it in the script is so poignant. They say they can't even describe the feeling. All the months of stress, the rejections, the agonizing doubt, sitting there questioning their intrinsic human worth. It all instantly felt worth it in that one single second of validation.
It is the moment the psychological loop finally closes. The Zeigarnik effect releases its grip.
And the creator makes a deeply important point here. They don't attribute this win to the universe, or to good karma, or to luck. They state very clearly that finding the job was the direct causal result of consistency and changing their approach.
They took control.
They hacked the system, they built the network, they upgraded their skills, and they pitched themselves as a solution. They leave the audience with this powerful final message. Don't stop. Your yes is just one conversation away, and a rejection letter does not define your value.
It is a phenomenal testament to the power of applied strategy over structural despair.
So, to you listening right now, if you are currently deep in the trenches of the looking phase, if you are sitting at your desk staring at an inbox full of automated rejections, or worse, absolute silence, this deep dive completely validates the brutality of your experience.
The system is structurally indifferent to you, your feelings of exhaustion, the unfairness of it all, that is real. It is justified.
But acknowledging that reality is also a challenge to audit your own behavior, you have to ask yourself the hard questions right now. Are you just stubbornly throwing identical messages in bottles into an algorithmic ocean?
Are you letting the silence dictate your self-worth?
Or are you ready to dismantle your failing approach? Are you reverse engineering the ATS with precise keywords? Are you bypassing the gatekeepers by stroking the egos and activating the mentorship instincts of professionals on LinkedIn?
Are you actively bridging your skill gaps to match the market's new demands?
And when you finally get in the room, are you talking about your past, or are you diagnosing their future?
That is the ultimate synthesis of this creator's journey. You cannot control the macroeconomic climate. You cannot control the flaws in legacy HR software. But applying targeted critical thinking to your own tactical methodology is the one variable you possess total dominion over.
Strategy is the only reliable antidote to the despair of the black hole.
Strategy over despair.
I think that perfectly encapsulates the shift. We started this deep dive talking about how the metaphorical vending machine of society is broken. You put your effort in, and it just stares at you.
Yeah, it takes your money and gives you nothing.
Exactly. But what this creator proves is that when the machine is broken, you don't just stand there crying and kicking the glass. You walk around to the back, you pull out a toolkit, you figure out how the wiring works, and you build your own mechanism to extract exactly what you need.
You stop relying on the illusion of fairness, and you start mastering the mechanics of the system.
And that leaves me with a final lingering thought for you to ponder as we wrap this up. We've spent this entire time rigorously breaking down the strategy required just to get the job. We talked about how you have to fundamentally transform yourself from a static passive applicant into a bespoke dynamic solution to a specific corporate problem.
Right?
But if that hyper-adaptable problem-solving mindset is the mandatory requirement just to get your foot in the door today, how does that alter the way you should view your entire career after you sign the offer letter?
That implies a permanent state of evolution.
Exactly. If you are hired because you are a solution on day one, doesn't that inherently mean your value expires the moment that specific problem is solved? Are the days of the static employee completely dead? Are we all essentially just independent contractors operating in a permanent, lifelong state of strategic pivoting, regardless of whether we currently draw a W-2 salary or not?
That is a terrifying but very necessary question.
Something to think about the next time you find yourself staring at a blank screen, wondering what your next move should be. Remember, the machine might be broken, but you are not. You just need a new strategy.